Hey Ronald. So, um, this is the worksheet, the parsing worksheet that we're working on, and the first two questions you're kind of on your own, but I can try to explain three for you, which is just like reading bottom-up tables, which is like a bottom-up parser. So the assignment was to get this statement and see if the parser will like accept it or not. So the way you do this is you're gonna use this big table right here, and you're gonna use this little table. And this big table basically kind of tells you like what to do when a certain like syntax appears, and this little table tells you what to do when this tells you what to do. So the way you do this is you're gonna have a stack, you're gonna have an input, and you're gonna have an action. Okay, so our input is gonna be the whatever we're analyzing, whatever the parser has to read, which in this case will be that. So we'll just write in ID plus ID times the ID, and then it doesn't have it in the worksheet, but she tells us we add a money sign to it. So we add a money sign to it, and now the stack always has a zero, and that's pretty much what we need to start. So I'll line this up a little better. So this lined up, and we get zero and ID. So we put zero and ID together, and we look at the big table. So this table right here. So we have zero, we have ID, so we do a shift 5. S5 is shift 5. It's actually kind of big, whatever. So we have shift 5. So what that means is that we go down here, write 0, this comes over here to the ID, and then it gets a 5 after it. So we have 0, ID, 5, and then everything else gets copied down. Plus, ID, multiply, ID, money sign. And now we're going to look at 5 and ID in the big table. So we go up to the big table, and we look at 5 and ID. Wait, is that right? Did I do that right? 5 and plus, sorry. 5 and plus. So look at 5 and plus, we get R6. In the big table, if you ever get like a blank space, that's like an error in the compiler, which is kind of interesting. So if there's not something for it to do, then the compiler automatically knows that there's an error. But right now we have 5 and plus, so we got R6. So that means we go down here and we write down reduction 6. So what that means is that we're gonna look at the little table. So reduction means we look at the little table. So we're looking at this table and the sixth one. So ID, and we look at this backwards because we're going from bottom up. So ID, if we have an ID, it turns into an F. So we go down here, and this ID turns into an F. So you get 0, F, and not 5, and then everything else gets copied down. ID, star, ID, money sign. And now we have to figure out what the 5 turns into. So we look at 0, and we look at F. So we go up to the big table, and we go 0, and then we go to F, so we get a 3. So this 5 turns into a 3 kinda. And now we can look at 3, and we can look at plus. So 3 and plus, we go out to the big table again. So erase all this shit. We have 3, and we have the plus, and that turns into reduction 4. So we get reduction 4. So that means we got to look at the little table. So the little table, reduction 4, says F turns into T. So erase all this shit right now. F turns into T, so that we have an F. So we get 0 and T. And to figure out what this 3 becomes, we look at 0 and T in the big table. So we go here, we have 0, we have T, so we get a 2. So this gets a 2 right here. And now we copy all the stuff down. And reduction, we don't bring anything over. Like up here, when we did shift, the ID got brought over. For reduction, you just copy everything down. So you get plus, ID, multiplication, ID, and money sign. And now we look at 2 and plus in the big table. So we go to the big table, erase this shit, and we get 2 and plus. So we get reduction 2. So this turns into a reduction 2. So we go up to the little table, and 2 says that a T turns into an E backwards. So we got 0 and E. And to figure out what this 2 is, we look at 0 and E. So erase this shit. We get 0 and E, and we get a 1. So right here, this turns into a 1. And then this gets copied down. Plus, ID, multiplication, ID, money sign. And if we look at 1 and plus in the big table, we get 1 and plus, and we get shift 5. So if we look at shift 5, that means we have 0, E, 1. Now we bring this over here, plus, and a 5. And then this turns into ID, multiplication, ID, and money sign. So here we can just go straight to the next thing. We look at 5, and we look at ID. So we go up to the big table, and we have 5. Wait, did I do that right? 5 and ID. Something's not right. What did I do? We just shift 5. The plus gets turned over, and we get the 5. Hmm. The plus comes over, and we get the 5. 5 and ID. It's weird. Why are we getting an error? 5 and ID. Did I do something wrong? 0 and E was 1. So we get this 1 right here. And then 1 and plus. 1 and plus was shift 6. Oh, shift 6? Is that where I fucked up? Yeah, 1 and plus is shift 6. My bad. So this turns into a 6. And then 6 and ID. 6 and ID turns into S5. Okay, so that's shift 5. My bad, bro. I did this once before and like I didn't record the audio, so you know, it was a good fuck up. But alright, so anyways, so now we did shift 5. So we get 0, E, 1, plus 6, ID, and then 5. And then all this stuff comes down minus the ID. So times ID, money sign. And now we go straight to 5 and multiplication. So then we get here 5 and multiplication. We get a reduction 6. So here we get reduction 6. So we look up at the little table. We get ID and F. So ID turns into F. So here we got 0, E, 1, plus 6, F. And to figure out what this 5 turns into, we got to look at 6 and F. So we go up to the big table. And we look at 6. And we look at F. And we get a 3. So we go here. And we get a 3 right here. And then a reduction, everything just comes down. So you get times ID money sign. You look at 3 and you look at multiplication in the big table. So here you get 3 and multiplication, and you get reduction 4. So you go down here, you get reduction 4. So we look up at the little table, and reduction 4 says that F turns into T. F turns into T. Erase the shift now. So we go down here, and this F is going to turn into a T. So we copy down everything over, except for the 3. We look at 6 and T to look at what number we're going to have there. So we have 6. Man, that shit's tripping. We have 6 and T, and we get a 9. Okay. So here we have a 9. And we bring this down because it's a reduction. We bring everything down. Star, ID, money sign. Erase this shit. No, not erase, sorry. I don't know why I did it. Like that, like that. And now we're going to look at 9 and star. So we go up to the big table, and we look at 9, and we look at star, and we get a shift 7. So we go down here, and we get a shift and a 7. So we copy all this shit down. 0, E, 1, plus 6, T, 9. You get the multiplication comes over and a 7. And then this comes down as ID and money sign. So now we're going to look at 7 and ID in the big table. So let me start by erasing this. So we have 7 and ID, and that's a shift 5. So right here we get a shift 5. So we get 0, E, 1, plus 6, T, 9, multiplication, 7, ID, and 5. And over here we got the money sign. And then we're almost done? Nope, there's more. So you get 5 and you get the money sign. So go up here and you look at the 5, you look at the money sign, and you get an R6. So we get to reduce again. So we do reduction 6. We look at the little table. Reduction 6 says ID goes to F. So this ID is going to go to an F. So F0, E, 1, plus 6, T, 9, multiplication, 7, F. We got to figure out what this 5 is going to be. We look at 7 and F. So let's go to 7 and F in the big table. So here we got 7, here we got F, and we get a 10. So here we get a 10. So now we get this money sign down here, and we look at 10, and we look at the money sign. So if we go to the big table, and we look at 10, and we look at the money sign, we get reduction 3. Okay, oh boy. All right. So right here, we get reduction 3. So look at the little table, and right here, reduction 3 says that if we have t times f, then we get a t. So let's see what we got that. Go down here to the stack, and we have t, we have times, and we have f. Let's erase this for now. Okay. So we have t times f, and all of that turns into what? I think it was a t. Yeah, t. So our stack becomes 0, e, 1, plus 6, and then just t. The money sign is down here, and we have to see what number is going to go in front here, what this 10 is going to turn into. So we look at 6, and we look at t in the big table. So let's erase the stuff from before. We have 6, and we have t, and we get a 9. We get a 9 right there. 6 and t, yeah. So we get a 9 right there. And now we have a 9, and a money sign. So we go up to the big table again, erase the stuff. We look at the 9, and we look at the money sign. So we get reduction 1. Reduction 1, since we're up here, well, let's go down and write it. So this is reduction 1. So in the little table, reduction 1 says that e plus t turns into an e. Do we have that? Oh, look, e plus t turns into an e. So we have 0 and e, and this money sign comes down. And what's next? Let's look at 0 and e. What do we get here? So we look at 0 and e to figure out what goes in front of the e. We get 0 and e, and we get a 1. Let's do it like that. We get a 1. So over here we put a 1, and now we can look at 1 and money sign. So go over here, we look at 1, and we look at the money sign, and oh, it says accept. So what that means is that this was a valid, this was a valid, like part of the language inside of this compiler. And so yeah, that's how you do that one. If you have any questions or whatever, just call me or text me, dude. I'm gonna go over it. All right, man. So I'll talk to you later, dude. Peace.